Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. The messages of inspiration and hope is proudly brought to you today by the good guys at the 6minutewebinar.com. And as you see, I'm blessed to have the beautiful Tamra Blankenship with me today. Tamra,
it almost feels like a Friday.
Yeah, it does, because normally she's on our Friday show, The Everyday People, and she filled in today, and we're so glad that she's here. And Tamra, it's just a pleasure for us to have Mr. Reuben Lowen on today. He's a former Navy SEAL, and some of the things that you know about him, this looks like it's going to be a very interesting conversation day, isn't it?
I agree. I'm super excited to hear some of his stories of things he's experienced along with his passion and career. So I'm super excited to dig in.
Oh, yeah, because, being a former Navy SEAL, I can guarantee you that he definitely will bring a lot to the party, especially when it comes to helping you, because that's what us military guys do. We don't leave anybody behind. Well, we'll be right back right after this brief message from our sponsor.
Hi, I'm Angel Marie Monticelli with Angel Marie Shines. And I had the pleasure, the honor to go through training for the 6-minute webinar. Oh my gosh, this webinar and how it's structured and how they teach it. Thank you, Speakers Pathway Coalition. Thank you, Don McGrath and the whole team for the 6-minute webinar, because you made it so simple, easy. And the way you lined it out with the outline, I can reproduce it. And I'm already getting the engagement. I'm getting people that are coming back that are saying, oh, I love this webinar that's so short, so to the point, and I love your products and what I'm selling, but then what I'm also, the services that I provide, and I can do any of this because I have the framework. So thank you so much to the whole team, because the 6-minute webinar totally rocks. Thank you.
And welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. And Tamra, guess who I got a call from this morning thanking me for introducing her to Mr. Aaron Hymas, the president of E360 TV.
Who is that? I'm excited to hear.
Take one guess. You just saw her.
Who?
Angel Marie Monticelli.
Oh, Angel.
Yeah.
You've got me. I'm thinking of our guest last week. I'm sitting there going, what? Wait, what? How exciting. Well, congratulations, Angel. I'm super excited to hear what happened.
Aaron is putting on events now at E360 TV, and we're being involved with that. And Aaron was saying, I really need someone that's got some energy for the event. And I says, I got the lady for you. He spent over an hour on the phone with her. And I'm telling you, her and Aggie is having a conversation today, the business partner there.
Oh, very cool.
And she called me and she was just, oh, thank you so much. And the reason I share that with you, ladies and gentlemen, that's the way we roll here. Everybody that's a guest on the show, however we can help them get on other shows, we don't charge anybody for that. That's just our gift to them, because that's how you get ahead in life. When you come from the heart, you give from the heart, and guess what? Game over. People who are only centered on, buttering their own bread and what's in it for them, they'll always be in last place.
So true. Yeah, lead with a giving heart. Usually get gifted back very generously. So
you've proven that a lot in your career, and Tamra, because you've helped so many people. And I got to put your website up here so people know, all about you and all that. There we go. Tamra Blankenship, just TAMRA Blankenship.com.
Yeah, my parents were a little creative.
Yep. I thought I misspelled it wrong the first time that I wrote your name.
No,
her email, and you'll see this from time to time because I put the different ticker tapes up, Tamra at TamraBlankenship.com. But you know what? We've got a gentleman in the back room who was so kind to join us on a very, very short notice. Had a lady contact us this weekend. She's in our thoughts and prayers. She lost her dad Saturday.
Oh,
and she says, I can't be on the show. And I says, don't worry about the TV show. You be with your family. The TV show will be here when you're ready. So let's welcome Mr. Reuben to the stage here. Hey, sir, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for asking.
Well, thank you. We appreciate you being here on such a very short notice. And we got to put your website up there, ReubenLowen.com. That's REUBE. I can't read through the top of my glasses here. REUBENLOWING.com. And we're just so thankful that you filled in on a very short notice, number one. We appreciate that. But also, too, I'd like for you to share with the audience a little bit about your background, who you are, and let's go from there.
Well, I live here in McAllen, Texas. I live about 7 miles north of the Mexican border. I've been down here for about 5 years. My stepfather's from Rio Bravo, Mexico, and my mom met him 17 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom's bilingual, and she was teaching English as a second language. And these two girls came in, and they brought their father in, thinking that my mother could teach him to speak English.
Oh, how
and
cool.
He looked just like my great grandfather. My mother was his favorite, so they connected like right away. And my mom loves Mexico, so they're married. So I would come down, and I was living in Dallas, and I would come down and visit. 2014 from Thanksgiving, stayed all the way to New Year's, and I came down in 2015 and I stayed.
Wow.
And so, I lived in Panama. I was a Navy SEAL for 10 years. I spent 6 months in Panama prior to the Panama invasion. I redeployed back to the United States, and 3 days later, I came back for the invasion of Panama during Operation Just Cause. And then I lived there from October of 93 to October of 90 to October of 93. And I lived in San Diego for about 14 years. So about the same demographic, same distance from the border. I lived in San Diego. The economics are different. Like the highest paying outside the military, that most employees in San Diego is Qualcomm. And here it's HEB grocery.
Yeah.
The big difference in income. Yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely, because a lot of folks around there don't know, or around the United States may not be familiar with HEB. HEB is a supermarket, and I'm telling you from the bottom of my heart, I'm not knocking anybody, other companies, supermarkets, but when you go to HEB, you will get spoiled, because one of the things that we hear when people move away from Texas, wow, I miss HEB.
Right.
So what makes it so special?
They're
Is
just
it people, or is it the items and the access?
They're produce.
Yeah.
Produce.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
They're very innovative. They're not like your normal supermarkets. And I'm going to send them bill for this free advertisement. I'm just teasing. But they have their own brands. What surprised me, they have their own fishing fleets that go out into the Gulf and to get their seafood. Yeah. They're very innovative like that. And of course, sometimes during the day, I don't know since COVID or not, because I haven't been around, going to supermarkets that much.
Yeah.
And because I don't like wearing masks. And
they deliver.
Yeah. Yeah. They got curbside deliver and all that. Yeah.
No, they deliver to your house.
Yeah.
I got an app on my phone.
Wow.
I shop.
Wow, Reuben, you must be living right, brother. I mean, you need
to get a side gig from them, though. Get a little kickback for all this publicity.
Yeah. And, what I used to love to do is walk around in there during the day, because they had different little, what do they call those little stands? I mean,
kiosks.
Yeah, they had specific names for them. They called them Showtime or something like that. And they would do, talk about the different dishes they were preparing that day, and they give you free samples, and you go around the corner.
Yeah.
Wow.
And a good friend of mine,
today's Costco's.
Yeah. A good friend of mine, she was serving wine one day, and I was teasing her. I says, "Can I come back 45 times?"
For a full glass of wine.
Yeah, for a free glass of wine.
Yeah, a little free glass of wine.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my goodness.
Funny.
And Tamra, she lives out there in the Phoenix area, and we've been friends for several years, and always wanted to do a show together. We do the Everyday People show on Friday, and we really enjoy that. That's been a tremendous blessing for us, hasn't it, Tamra?
Oh, yeah. Such an amazing place to meet amazing people. Absolutely.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're burned up too much time. Reuben's here to talk about a specific thing.
Yes.
And Reuben, I'm just going to let you take the ball and run with it, because I know the passion you have in your heart. And I know the training that you've had in your heart at being a Navy SEAL. It's all about, let's deliver the goods. Let's get the job done. So I'm going to let you just do what you want to do there, my man.
Well, what I want to talk about is how things you can manifest on purpose.
Mm.
And I've had many things in my life. I left the farm in Michigan because I wanted a box. And I joined the Navy.
Mm.
I took a class. I wasn't real good in school. I joke around that I graduated on graduation day. I wasn't sure if I was going to get a diploma or a certificate of attendance. I didn't miss any school, but I didn't do any homework either. Right. And I took a class called sports literature. I'm thinking, oh, this would be a great class. I get to get a grade for reading, Sports Illustrated, and I do that anyways, right? But we learned a lot of things. We learned about sports psychology, and we learned about the pipeline for the Olympics. And one of the ways to get in the Olympics, if you're good enough in a sport and you were in the military, that would be your job. And I'm like, oh. And there was a guy named Jeff McCracken. I always see on Wide World of Sports. He was in the Marine Corps. He actually had one of the toughest fights Thomas Hearns ever had, and fighting Thomas Hearns for a title. And so I knew that the Marine Corps had a boxing team. So I went to knock on the Marine Corps recruiter's door, and nobody answered. And the Navy recruiter sticks his head out his office, and he goes, "Oh, they're out to lunch. Come here, I'll talk to you." I'm like, "Listen, pal, I don't want to join the Navy. I don't want to be in a ship 5 and 6 months at a time with a bunch of men. I want to box, and I know the Marine Corps has got a boxing team." And that guy goes, "I boxed in boot camp. I signed up that day." He lied.
Oh no!
When I got to
say anything.
They had, "What do you want to do?" I said, "Oh, I want to box." He goes, "You can't do that." I'm like, "You ever see me fight?" I'm like, no. You got to try out for the team. I'm like, "Oh, that makes sense." They go, "What do you want to do in the meantime?" I go, I says, "Well, I'll just be a regular sailor." He goes, "Oh no, you don't want to do that." I'm like, "Oh." So I took 3 years of drafting in high school. So I go, I'll be a draftsman. They go, "Well, we can't guarantee you a school for that." Well, come to find out, there is none. You just do it. It's like just on the job training. And then, but they didn't want to tell me that.
Right.
And then they go, so I'm like, well, I got straight A's in the trigonometry portion of Algebra 2. So I'll be a surveyor. They go, "Dude, this is the Navy. Everything's at sea level." I'm like, "Oh." I'm like, "Well, what did the test say I should do?" They go, "That's what I want to hear. Advanced electronics." All I knew about electronics is how to jumpstart my car. And they wanted me to be in the submarine Navy, but my stepdad was in the submarine Navy, and he was a little off. And so I decided that I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to be in a submarine, and I didn't want to be a nuke. All right. And so I went aviation electronics, and I wanted to be an aviation electronics technician, but they said, "Don't pick your first, the one you want, the one you really want. Pick to make that second." I have no idea why they told me that. So I found this. It said TD. I didn't even read what it was. I just put that first, right? So boot camp's almost over, and they come out and they say, "What you're going to be?" And I'm thinking they're going to tell me I'm going to be an AT. And they said, "You're going to be a TD." I'm like, "Oh," everybody's like, "Oh man, you are so lucky." I'm like, "What is it?" Well, there's no sea duty. And your job is working on flight simulators and submarine simulators, the big computers, right? So I liked Florida. I had family in Florida. So I put every place, Jacksonville, Orlando, Pensacola, and I got Pensacola. And I worked on flight simulators in Pensacola. And when I checked in to the command, I told the career counselor that I wanted a box. Well, back then they used to teach boxing to Navy pilots and their crewmen. And so she sends me on this old guy, Johnny Walker. He was a pro fighter before World War II. Then he became a seaplane pilot, and then he set up the whole syllabus for naval aviators' physical training, and boxing was part of the syllabus. Naval aviators had to be aggressive, competitive, and possess the will to win. And boxing is the only competitive sport in the program. And they don't really let them know who won or not, because they want them all, they don't want them to feel bad enough that they'll try harder, right? And so, this old guy had a gym. It was an old abandoned butcher shop in the darkest place in Pensacola. There was a brothel right across the street, and I was the only white guy. And I'm like, Lord, help me.
Mhm.
And I want to do this. And I walk in there and I started working. And I I was a scrapper. And this old guy would keep talking about Roy Jones, how he steal fighters in the Roy Jones Sr. And I'm like, how can anybody steal a fight? How can anybody make a man who knows how to fight do anything he doesn't want to do?
Right.
So we were fighting in the Sunshine State games, and we used the Boys Club van, and it was both gyms, Roy Jones and this other guy's gym. And Roy Jones Jr. was 12 years old, and there was a kid named Tyrone Smith who was 14. Another guy named Arthur Williams, and then another guy named Vince Phillips were all on that bus. And I watched these two guys, Roy and Tyrone. They look like two miniature Sugar Ray Leonards. Like, whoever taught them how to fight, I want them to teach me. And my fight, I had two sparring partners in my corner. I didn't have my trainer in the corner. And I was fighting a Marine. And the first punch he hit me so hard, he broke my nose. And it felt like the whole the roof came down.
Oh.
And I'm against the rope, and I'm just swinging as hard as I can, as fast as I can, the whole round. And then I get to my corner, and I'm asking one of them goes, go to the body. And the other one goes, move and jab. I'm like, and I go, how's he hitting me? He goes, right hand. I go, no, it's a right hand. How's he throwing it? He goes, overhand right. Okay, I knew what to do. So I decided I was going to move and jab. And then I did this big booming voice, right hand, be first with the right hand. And so I let it go. And he just kept cueing me with that. That was Roy Jones Sr. He wasn't even my trainer.
Oh, wow.
And by the end of the third round, that guy couldn't hit me no more. His eye started getting puffy with me cracking him. And I thought I won the fight, and they raised his hand. And I had to go and I had to get surgery. I had a deviated septum and a hematoma. They had to lance it, and then they stuffed gauze back to my eyeballs.
Yeah.
And I had to put a gauze in front of my face that you catch the blood. I had to go to work like that. It didn't look good, right? And I couldn't work out for like 3 months. But when I could, I stuck my thumb out and I found his gym, and he told me, he said, you want to fight for me? You better come and train every day. You better do what you're told, and you better quit drinking. And I was a 19-year-old sailor, and that's what I did.
Wow.
And I had about 54 fights under Roy Jones Sr. I fought in the finals against the same guy in the Alabama Golden Gloves 3 times, and he beat me twice, and I beat him once.
Wow.
And then I was going to get out and turn pro, but there was nobody really making any money at that time. That was before Roy Jr. turned pro. And they needed somebody to be a lifeguard on the base. And I'm like, oh, I'll do that. Right. Well, there was a Navy diver and a Navy SEAL. They were training us, and they were putting us through our calisthenics. And I was the only one that could keep up with those guys and running and exercising and stuff like push-ups and things like that. And the Navy diver approached me and asked me if I thought about, would be interested in joining the diving committee. I'm like, well, to me, divers are just underwater mechanics. I didn't want to do that. I want to box. He goes, well, go to the SEAL teams. They'll send you to the boxing team. And so that's what I did. And I screened and I passed, and I went to SEAL training. And in that class, I was one of the, I thought I was something. And then I got to SEAL training, and I was in the bottom 25% in performance of the class, running and swimming. And I couldn't even pass the obstacle course. And then we got into Hell Week, and I was weighing about 155 at the time. And Hell Week I caught pneumonia. I got all the way, my weight dropped all the way down to 128 pounds. I was coughing up blood. My face was all puffed. The outside part of your eyes, the white part, was all completely bloodshot red. And my performance dropped off even worse. Halfway through training, I got dropped from training, and I got orders back to Pensacola, and in survival department. And I meet the command master chief was another Navy SEAL, and I told him that I wanted to go back to training. And he says, well, we'll put you in survival department, and there's some of the Navy SEALs that are doing their show duty here. And I go, what will I do? And he goes, well, you'll teach them how to run the obstacle course and the cross country course and boxing. And I'm like, did I tell you that I boxed? So that was my job for 20 months. And I reapplied for SEAL training 7 times before they finally let me back in.
Wow.
And there was
Perseverance.
there was a Master Chief that did 4 tours in Vietnam, and he was a flank owner of SEAL Team 6, and I was teaching his son how to box. And he liked the mindset that I was teaching his son. And so that he actually went to the Pentagon with me and guaranteed in writing that I would make it through training to get me back into training.
Wow.
So I went into class, I was in class 141. That was quite an experience. Going back again the second time, all the instructors remembered who I was. But this time, I was the fastest on the obstacle course. I was one of the fastest runners and one of the fastest swimmers in my class. And, it was a big difference. All kinds of
So
things,
what do you
right?
think was the polarity? What was the contrast? Is it ignorance? Do you feel like it was the drive was different? What do you think made it so different for you?
Wow. Well, the preparation was definitely. I took a cold shower every day for 20 months to get used to the cold.
Yeah,
Right?
it's probably true.
But I don't know. I remember being in Hell Week waiting for breakout the second time, thinking, "What am I thinking? Why am I doing this?" And all the guys that were doing it for the first time, they're like, "What's going to happen, Red?" That's my nickname is Red. And I go, "It's better that you don't know." And then And then breakout happens. So the instructors come at you. They're all cammied up. They have M16s and M16 machine guns, and they're throwing concussion grenades and smoke grenades. Just utter chaos, right?
Wow.
And they're shooting blanks, but they're like, right in your face, and throwing concussion grenades right at your feet. It's like, it's craziness, right? And the officers all screwed up with their musters, and this is my second time around, and they like, you're all screwed up, and they go, "Okay, go back in the tent. I want you to turn your uniform on. You're inside out, and your right shoe on your left foot, and left shoe on your right foot." So I get in the tent. I turn my blouse around, and everybody else is like going for Monty. I'm like, they give you 30 seconds to do all this, right? And they're going, "Come on, Red." I'm like, "Yeah, knock yourself out." And we come back out. Of course, you get that wrong, right? And then somebody got caught sleeping. They couldn't get the muster right. And somebody was caught sleeping in the barracks. And then all the attention went to that guy, right? But there was this one instructor that he was my proctor the first time around. He was one of the guys that kind of got me pushed out of the training. And I'm watching this guy. He's got a mini mag flashlight, and so they sent us back to the tent to get our sea bag with all of our change of clothes and our toiletries and everything. Right. And so we're in a push-up position. They're spraying us down with a garden hose, and he comes to me, and I was the one he was looking for. And he kicks a bunch of sand in my sea bag and throws it out in the ocean. And I'm like, "Oh, I'm dead," right? But then we get to right after that. It's like, "Okay, you guys are so screwed up. They're going to surf torture us," right? So they make you get in, arms locked, walk into the ocean up to your chest, turn around, lock arms again, and sit down. So you're just up out of the water. And I'm thinking, this one guy's coming to me and he goes, "Red, I want to be next to you. I know you're going to make it." I'm like, "Yeah, whatever, dude." And we get in the water, and I'm thinking, "Oh, this isn't so bad. It wasn't as cold as it was last time. I was in February last time. It was a lot colder."
Oh, yeah.
And the same guy's going, "Let me go, Red. I'm going to ring the bell." I'm like, "You're kidding, right? We didn't even get started. The water's not even cold." He goes, "I'm not like you, man." And I'm like, "All right, tell the coxswain." And the coxswain's like, "Red, don't let him go." I'm like, "Dude, he's going to quit anyway." That guy got up. When he got up, 14 guys got up and quit with him.
Isn't it amazing?
There was, before breakfast Monday morning, out of 120 guys, 44 quit before breakfast. So I could have stood on my head that long, right? And it's just that
mindset.
That mindset, it's
It
like,
totally is.
yeah, I'm going to do something, and I'm going to do it. Okay, so there you go. So I ended up going to SEAL Team 4 in Little Creek, Virginia. The day I checked into SEAL Team 4 was the day that Marvin Hagler fought Sugar Ray Leonard. Same day, April 4th, 1987. And I had to go through 6 months of probationary training. I didn't do any boxing during that time. But when that period was over, they put me in a department waiting for my platoon to form up. I was in the Air Operations Department packing parachutes. And I got off regular time, like 4:30 every day. And you didn't get that kind of time ever before. You're working like crazy hours. And I walked to the base gym, and that's where the Navy boxing team was training. They just finished their training camp, and I'm watching these guys. I'm like, they don't look so tough. And I went up to the coach and I asked if I could work out. I meant hit the heavy bag, and the coach goes, "Yeah, who do you want to spar?" I'm like, "Oh, can I use your gloves?" And I got up there and I hit 4 guys that were already on the team, and they needed a lightweight.
Oh,
I'd always fought at featherweight, 125 was the limit, and but I put on a little bulk going to SEAL training, so I ended up fighting at 130. So I'd walk around like 155, and I'd fight at 132 pounds. And I got to fight the #1 ranked lightweight in the country, Anthony Suggs. Anthony Suggs Senior is how he goes by now, but his son's the same name, turned pro, and he knocked out Kennedy McKinney in the Olympic Festival to win the first berth in the Olympic trials. So I fought him like right after. Everybody told me how hard this guy hit. I'm like, whatever. Roy Jones Jr. and I were sparring partners. Vince Phillips and I was sparring partners. Those guys hit hard. And I get to the fight, and he's a southpaw. And I'm like, nobody told me that, but no problem. I fought a lot of southpaws. I'll just keep my jab higher than his and move to my left. And when he put his jab out there, I patted it down, and I busted him in the face 4 times with the crispest, snappiest jabs I've ever thrown in my life. Just bop, 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 bop. And I took a step to my right, and next thing I know, I'm on my knees. He hit me with the overhand left right between the eyes and dropped me.
Oh, wow.
I got back up. I'm like, okay, I'm okay. And I'm looking at him, and he had a little belly. I'm thinking, okay, my strategy, I had a hard left hook to the body. I was snatching to the body and straight punches down the middle. And that's what I did. I jumped on him. I kept him against the rope, just drilling the whole rest of that round. It was all me. And I ended the round. My coach goes, "You better get your hands up because he's going to come at you hard." He was right. He was winging everything so hard. He's on his tippy toes. But I blocked everything and then countered him. And then the rest of the fight was all me. And at the end of the fight, we're standing in the middle of the ring, and I'm grinning. I knew I whipped him, and his head's hanging down. And the referee raised his hand. And I was like, I've been robbed so many times. I'm like, whatever.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
And I looked at him. I go, "We know who won, don't we, Tony?" And we didn't talk again. We didn't talk very much ever before, but that was kind of it, right? And so then I had to make a choice between going to Olympic trials in 1988 or go to the Persian Gulf during the Iran-Iraq war. And that's what I chose to do. I got a lot of respect in the community for doing that. I was out there when the Vincennes shot the Airbus down. If you know what I'm talking about then. And then my next platoon, I went to Panama. And I was in Panama 6 months prior to the Panama invasion. And I loved that deployment, man. There was the commanding officer's secretary's husband was the regional marketing director for Philip Morris and Bacardi for all of Central and South America, and he was a huge boxing fan. And he took me down to the Marañón, which is a famous world gym where Roberto Duran, Eusebio Pedrosa, Victor Cordova all came out of that gym. And they lined up 4 guys, and I went 4 rounds apiece with the 4-4, whipped everyone. Right? And then I was in great shape. I was going to go back to the boxing team. And when I got back and we redeployed, and then I took my wife out to dinner, and I get home and there's a whole bunch of messages in my recalling us. So I went in, and my wife dropped me off, and that was it. And we went back to Panama, and we were on Paitilla Airfield, and we had they changed the mission right at the last minute, and we trained for like 3 years to do it one way, and then they changed it at the last minute because they didn't want us to destroy the jet, the Noriega's jet, because the new president wanted to use that plane. And so we ended up, it was like a shootout at OK Corral with automatic weapons, and we had 4 dead, 8 wounded. And then it sucked, and I ended up moving back down there in October that year, and it was so different. It was like a whole different planet compared to what it was under Noriega's regime.
Isn't that
They were
interesting?
so locked. Yeah, it was amazing, right? And I, so I had a great time in there, and I ran the air operations. The Navy SEAL did it out of aircraft. I was in charge of it, seats to nuts, everything, including managing the equipment, maintaining the gear, scheduling. I was a free fall jump master, so I ended up with I had 770 free falls after leaving Panama.
Yeah.
And then I went to SEAL Team 1. And, I was supposed to go to Monterey for Spanish. I went to Monterey for Spanish language school, and the detailer forgot to reserve a seat in my class.
Oh, wow.
At the same time the drawdown started, I studied my tail off to make E6, get advanced. And then the multiple was so high. I missed it by 2 points because they increased the multiple. And then I got a $253 paycheck to pay before Christmas because this person made a mistake. And at that point, I'm like, I am done. I'm out of this canoe club. I don't care if I had to flip burgers at McDonald's. I'm out of here. But my wife didn't want me to do that. And so I stuck it out for another year and a half. I went to Korea, and then I came back. And when I wrote a resume, everything came up, something carrying a gun. And I just really didn't want to do that anymore. But I was going to go work at the federal building, checking bags for $15 an hour. I really didn't want to do that. And then the unemployment guy called me up and goes, "Are you still looking?" I go, "Yeah, I'm still looking." He goes, "There's a construction company in Irvine, California, looking for a lead generator for all of San Diego County."
There you go.
Yeah.
And I have a generator, but leader, I'm a leader. And my job was standing in front of a mock-up sunroom, get people to sign up for a free estimate on Room Edition. And the first month, I was the number one for that company in all of Southern California.
Wow.
And I got a little taste for sales. That's how that got started.
You know, based on everything you've done, we've listened to you, you know, boxing was the thing that was the core that got you down the pathway of life there. And being a Navy SEAL and all the things you do. I don't know about you, Tamra, but I'm just dying to hear the one thing on his bucket list that he has not done yet. What would that be?
Yeah, no doubt. After all the things
I
you've
wanted
done.
to scuba diving with sharks.
Really?
I've got
You haven't done that yet?
I
That
got like
shocks me.
380 some dives, and I've never seen a shark.
Okay, that makes
Really?
more sense. I'm like, really?
Right.
I can't believe you've not seen it
I
yet.
remember I was in a long dive, like a 6-hour dive in Puerto Rico, and one of them pilot fish kept trying to attach itself to me. And I'm like, "Where's the mama shark that thing came from?" All night long, it's like in my head.
Well, you got to understand, with your reputation, sharks see you
The
coming.
sharks
They're
are
gonna
for
be,
you.
they get out of there, you know. This guy's got a mean left hook, I tell you. Yeah, it's really amazing, you know. And of course, after the military, you do things in financial advising and you help people. And I'd like for you to share something about that, if you would, sir.
Well, so when I got out, I was so broke I couldn't change my mind. And my wife handled all the finances, but you know, when I was in the military, because I was gone all the time. And but when I got out, my income dropped off to like half of what it was when I was on active duty. And she's like, "The creditors keep calling." I go, "Well, tell them I'll pay them when I get the money." She goes, "But they don't listen." And I'm like, "Well, tell them to pack sand." Well, she couldn't do that, so I did it. Well, the guy from Discover Credit Card was pretty tough. I didn't blow him off the phone. He said, you know, he suggested that I start educating myself. So I started reading every book you can get your hands on personal finance and debt management. One of them, there was 2 books my wife got them for me because they had boxing gloves on the cover. And it was Breaking the Power of Debt and Rapid Debt Reduction Strategies by John Evans. And Breaking the Power of Debt is about tapping into the spiritual, the supernatural, in that commitment to get out of debt. And it was it was a faith-based book. And then the Rapid Debt Reduction Strategies was just the debt roll-down strategy with negotiation tactics for dealing with your creditors, right? And I put those I had a whiteboard on my bedroom door, and I put all my bills on there, and the balances and the monthly payment every month I would change. That was before Excel, right? And or I learned how to use Excel, right? And
right.
and QuickBooks, right? And but I ended up paying off all of my debt, right? And I answered an ad in the paper as a debt management consultant. And it was a group interview. There was about 7 guys, all way more sales, the PNC, life and health, real estate, mortgages. And the guy that was up there explaining was saying, you know, they used a debt roll-up strategy, which I knew what that was, and they incorporated consumer credit counseling and debt settlement strategies with a mortgage refinance. So they would strategically refinance certain debt that would create the largest margin of savings, and then they would put that savings into the debt roll-up, paying everything off faster. And because I read them books, I could explain what they're doing. I was the only one to raise my hand, and it was straight commission. It was $50 a month, $50 for every signed loan application with income documentation and a check for an appraisal that I brought in, and a graduated scale, you know, commission. So the first job I got in sales was for LJ Hausner Construction. They built sunrooms, gardens, patio rooms, And they used to have a kiosk in front of Costco and Price Club stores. And I'd never been in sales. That was my first sales experience ever. And the lady that was training me, she was kind of heavy set lady, and she was barking at people like a chained dog and getting about the same results. And I'm like, I didn't want people running away from me. So I'm like, okay, who shop? Women shop. I've been ashamed myself to talk to women my whole life. So I had sized them up coming into the store, and it doesn't matter what it was, their hair, their makeup, their purse, their jewelry, their scarf, their shoes, whatever. I would compliment them.
Yeah.
And they would respond like, have you seen our sunrooms? They look at the pretty pictures. After that first month, I was the #1 producer for them, right? And they lost the contract with Costco, and I did that for about 8 months, and then they went door to door. And door to door is hard. But if you walk 120 houses a night, I don't care what you're selling, you'll sell 2. It doesn't matter, right? It's all numbers. And but it was only 4 hours a day. I'm like, I can do more. So I ended up getting a job working for a healthcare company, selling a treatment that was designed by NASA for astronauts to deal with their edema in outer space. And they used it for women who survived breast cancer and guys with prostate cancer. They get called lymphedema, right? And they use that as a treatment. And long story short, I was the first one to make a sale for that company on the way they were that with marketing. But the first month, they got shut down for Medicare fraud right before Thanksgiving, right?
Oh, wow.
And between Thanksgiving and Christmas, right? So I'm like trying to get it. I'm shooting out resumes, 7 a day, going to 4 interviews a day, trying to get a job.
During the holidays.
Yeah. And the only guy, this guy, the manager, he had a disposition and tone like Carlton the doorman, real flat. And he goes, well, there's a phone, there's a desk. He gives me a stack of leads, and I'm looking at this phone like it was a warm cow pie. I didn't want to touch it. But I'm thinking, they can't shoot me through the phone. And I got fearless, and I just started smiling, dialing, and averaged about 200 phone calls a day. And it was tough, but I learned a lot. Okay. And and then it's up and down though. Venture capital was up and down. And one of the months was I started looking, and I answered, I got that job as a debt management consultant. And the first month, well, I'm like, where am I going to get all these? Where am I going to find people? And I look over in the corner of my bedroom. There's all like 300 and some sunroom leads. So I called them all up. They remembered who I was, right? And I turned in 10 applications that first month because I needed $600 to pay the rent. I turned 12 applications that first month, and 10 of them funded, and they made me the manager. And everybody they put underneath me had background in financial services, and they were showing people how taking some of that margin of savings and putting it toward their, retirement that they could build a nest egg for retirement at the same time they're paying on their debt. But every time I showed somebody how to get out of debt, they started looking at buying a house. So I took a class at the real estate principles class at the junior college. I was so intimidated, all them smart college kids, but I sat in front of the class every day. I didn't miss any days. I did all my homework, and I graduated top of the class, passed my real estate exam, and I started working. I started doing the money store home improvement loans. And
yeah, excuse me for interrupting. We need a break for just a brief minute for a commercial. We'll be right back.
Okay, great.
The 6-minute webinar allows you to create a marketing product in a fraction of the time that it would typically take to create a webinar. And when you follow the simple process, you will provide laser-focused content to your ideal customers. And the nice thing is, it's repeatable for any product or service that you offer. My name's Rich Parsons, founder of Higher Calling Consulting, and creating my own 6-minute webinars has allowed me to have a 24/7 marketing presence for my ideal clients. So I encourage you to make the 6-minute webinar part of your business marketing strategy too.
And welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. The messages of inspiration and hope, and even our show on Friday, Everyday People, is brought to you by the good guys at the 6minutewebinar.com. And Tamara, we're so glad that you're with us today. You're not only with us on Everyday People, because you're just an everyday kind of a girl, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Thank you
And
so much for giving me a chance to share that space with you. I love it.
oh, well, thank you. It's a blessing for us to have you here too. And I want you to share a little bit about what you do, because you got Tamra Blankenship, and that's TAMRA Blankenship.com. And when someone goes there, I know you're a great counselor. Share a little bit with that, if you would, please.
Oh, sure. Thank you. Actually, I work with people helping them navigate either personal internal conflict, business, or relationship conflict. So believe it or not, we all see some struggles and challenges throughout the day, but a lot of the times we take those things personal and it blocks us from having the joy of our lives, right? So my favorite space is to help people see a different perspective on conflict and become more fluid and more accepting of what gifts are showing up in your life. Navigate them a little bit differently.
That's very important, isn't it? Our guest today
Absolutely.
is Reuben Lowen. He's really shared a lot of information about his life, and it's very interesting and very colorful and all that. And I want to be able to ask him a little bit. When you go to Reuben Lowing, .com, he has comments. He says, on his website, he says, "Do you feel stuck, lost, depressed? Each of us can experience hard times, but only a few know how to turn it into a starting point for a new life full of happiness." And Reuben ties physical, mental, and financial health together with strategies for all. He is a certified financial coach, with years of experience. And his mission in life is to find the hidden potential and give the people he works with all necessary tools to develop and growth. That's really something special, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to hear some of his magic abilities to help people shift those stuck spaces.
Let's welcome back to the show and let him pick up on that a little bit. Hey, Reuben, welcome back, my man.
Well, that's very interesting to hear what Tamara does. That's going to fit right in. Okay, so my wife at the time. You ever read Stephen Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People? He says it talks about leadership, right?
Yeah.
The leader's guy grabs his machete, starts blazing the trail through the jungle, and the manager's the one that comes behind him, and they wipe his brow when he's sweaty, they sharpen his machete when it gets dull, they clean up the debris behind him, they get a good assembly line going, and after a while the leader says, "Okay, everybody, wrong jungle." And the manager says, "Shut up and keep moving, at least we're making progress." And my first wife, she was like, "I'm not doing anything." After I took her to Panama, 6 months pregnant, she's like, "I'm not doing anything until I know you're in the right jungle." And when I started doing really well with the mortgage business, better than I'd ever done before. My first broker I worked for, I made, I started in July and I made $70,000 the rest of that year. And then the second one, I was like 115,000. And then I went on my own, and I didn't make a dime from November of 2001 until March of 2002. And I was having a really hard time with, I hit the flips in Logan, if you guys are familiar with San Diego. And I was having a really hard time with processing. I would train these girls on how to do it, and then they go get a job getting a salary somewhere else. And so my wife is like, she's an artist. She had a degree in commercial design and graphics. And she's like, "How do you do this?" I showed her one time, and that month I funded 18 loans, and my commission was $50,000.
Wow, that's great.
And she was the best processor I ever had, but she had a vested interest, right?
Right.
And but then, so I averaged like $200,000 a year for like 5 years in a row, and then it just stopped abruptly. I had switched to commercial or to construction lending because I didn't like I had an ethical problem with the no income, no asset verification loans. I just knew that was trouble waiting to happen. I just couldn't put somebody in a house that I knew they couldn't afford. The construction loans are bigger, more serious people. Took a little longer, a little more, details, but I could handle that. But that got hit first. That got hit in 2006. I started shifting to commercial lending. And commercial lending is like fishing, fly fishing for killer whales. You land one, you eat really good, but you lose a lot of them. And I went to a seminar at the Scottish Rite Center. The San Diego Creative Investor Association had a speaker, Robert Campbell, who wrote the book Time in the Real Estate Market. I'm like, "Oh, that'll be a great seminar." Oh my God, that was 3.5 hours of doom and gloom. It's like that guy had the script for the movie Big Short, trying to explain it with overhead projector and transparencies. And about 10 o'clock at night, I go back to my office and I email all my past clients, summarize what the guy said. And then the next day I'm sitting in my office with my head in my hands.
Yeah.
What am I going to do? And this guy calls me up and, how's business? I mean, my company was abundant funding. I was the first one in the phone book. I was the first guy he called. I go, a little slow, isn't everybody? He goes, not ours. I go, what are you doing? That's what I want to show you. We're going to have a presentation in Mission Valley tomorrow at noon. I go, free lunch? He goes, yep, I'm there. And so I get there and they were talking a lot about the things that I did. All my customers, I had to help them clean themselves up with their debt to income ratio and get on a budget and get their credit cleaned up and their scores up and everything so they could get in a house. But I knew they weren't going to make it to retirement. And I remember, these guys are showing me what they're doing. I'm like, oh, I remember those other guys that were with the debt management company, what they were doing, that fit together, right? And I didn't know how much money there was in it. I just wanted to help my customers. So I took this guy on 40 appointments in 1 month, gave him credibility. And I got about 6 referrals. That's what I was looking for. I was looking for referrals for mortgages and real estate. And he made $30,000 that month. He got promoted to senior marketer. I'm like, oh, I need to get those licenses, right? Well, you had to take the life and health, your Series 6 and your 63 and 65. And I didn't get all my licenses until November of 2007. And then the whole world collapsed.
Right.
And then lost both of my houses. My 2008 was really rough for me. And then 2009, I started writing business. And I have a girl that she was a widow. Her husband died in Iraq, and she had 7 years prior. She got the $400,000 service group life insurance. She spent $200, and she bought the house that she lived in San Marcos with a view of the ocean. And she hooked up with her dead husband's best friend, another Marine, but they weren't married because she would have lost her $3,600 a month widow's pay. And so they had a 2-year-old and one on the way. And so I'm doing like everybody I'm talking to, they're spending everything they're making. But when it got to her assets, she had $200,000 sitting in the money market. She'd been there for 7 years and didn't grow a dime. And she looks at me and she goes, I know the market's on sale. I just don't know what to do.
Right.
If she had a crystal ball, she couldn't have picked a better time.
Yeah, that's
to
interesting.
make a move. So long story short, I put her in some funds, got a policy for her and her significant other. And I wanted to put some money in as an emergency fund for like $25,000 into a municipal bond fund. So she got a better rate of return, better tax advantages in a bank, CD, or savings. And well, that was March of 2009. And when I did the end of the year review, she did 47% in the non-qualified annuity that I put her in with some great tax advantages. It was a company that had, they would blend the basis in the gain to lower your tax consequences. So she could get $65,000 a year at age 69 and only pay tax on $14,000 in that fund.
Let's say if there's someone out there listening and they're struggling right now and they've got more month than they've got money, I'd like for you to share with them from the heart the best advice that you could give them. If they're just, because a lot of people don't know which direction they want to go. Yeah. They're so worried and caught up in the process. They're not even, the problem. They're just, they're not focused on the content of what their life's about and what they can do. They're stuck inside that vacuum and their soul's spinning on the inside. And if someone's watching in that situation, what advice would you share with them as a financial coach and all?
Well, I would see most of the guys you're going to sit down with when they start realizing that you don't have enough money to invest, they're going to kind of, you're over your head in debt. They're going to give you their business card and say, well, when you start making more money, give me a call. Right. Well, that's where I will roll up my sleeves and help them. We do what's called a financial needs analysis, and we get to see where everything's at, what they're making, what they're spending, what their goals are, everything, covered it all. And then from there, I can look at that and let them see where their, unnecessary expenses, do they have a storage that they're, they don't really need to have. They've seen that storage out and, have a yard sale or
money. Yeah,
right.
have some money.
Or they got some paid subscriptions, they get a gym membership. They don't go to the gym, things like that.
Sometimes, Reuben, don't you think sometimes people are more lost, not because, I shouldn't say lost. They feel overwhelmed by the experience itself. They're not clear what they have, what they don't have, because the intensity of that, where to start. And then when you sit side by side with them, you can start hand holding them through
I've been there.
what they can let go of.
I've done exactly everything that I teach people to do. Right.
Right. So they don't feel the shame as much. Yeah.
Right. So, and then, when you start putting once you start, it's like manifesting. Once you start putting some money away, right, and you start seeing that money grow, your confidence builds, you start feeling right, exactly, right.
And it needs to grow, yeah.
So what, this power of intention, right?
Yeah.
It activates that.
Mm-hmm.
Like who would have thought I would have come off a farm in Michigan and ended up in Roy Jones Sr.'s gym?
Right.
Well,
so let's even go into that. Like, I love that you're bringing that up, because I think a lot of people don't realize they're manifesting their debt as much as they don't realize that they're in the alignment of where they're thinking so much about what's not working, that they're not seeing the possibility. And that manifesting that you talk about is absolutely not necessarily praying a chunk of money falls on my lap. You have to be more responsible, more accountable. But if you distract yourself from focusing on what's not working and put in action steps that manifest a direction of positivity. And Reuben, it sounds like you figured out that secret sauce or that secret formula.
There was a bunch of things with what I did in boxing and the SEAL teams. There was little that I did intentionally, I'm going to do this and this is going to happen. It was just desire.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that is a big part of it. That John Avanzini's book, Breaking the Power of Debt, that's all tapping into the spiritual warfare to break that power of debt, right?
Mm-hmm.
On your life. And well, that's a huge part of it. My wife left me, right when I went out. My dad died. My dad loved it that I was in this business. And when he died, I'm like, my oldest son was training with Roy Jones Sr. boxing in Pensacola. I was home. My youngest son, he was 11. He was pretty self-sufficient. And my wife was going back to Pensacola to pick him up. And I had about 10 days of I scheduled like 4 appointments a day, 10 days in a row. And I did like 66,000 points. It was 3 families. Of those 40 appointments, I only was able to write business with 3 of them. Now it was 9,000 in commission, my first half of commission, and I got paid in 4 days, right? Mm-hmm. But all the rest of them got help. Okay, I got them, to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and that's really what you need. Is people need a plan, right? Yeah. So I gave them all a plan, but I crashed. Okay, that was too much with my dad dying and my family breaking up. It was too much, and I had a crazy breakdown. Ended up doing all kinds of stuff. Went out to the Indian Ocean, did anti-piracy security in 2011. I hated that job. Had to find a better way, and that took me to the drone business. And that was an interesting business. So I traveled all over the country, finding anybody doing anything with drones, trying to get them to use the same service that the military did for their image processing and data management. But then the FAA put the kibosh on that in 2014. And there's so many things, that what Tamra does. It just, I wish I'd have known you then, girl. Right. And, I came down here to the Rio Grande Valley, and my first girlfriend after my divorce was a celebrity hairstylist.
Oh, how fun. She
was Miss Plus Size USA in 1996. I used to tease her and tell her she was big in all the right places. And but we were very contentious. We broke up and got back together 4 times in 4.5 years. And between the second and third breakup, we're watching this show on the History Channel or Discovery Channel this woman who had a ministry in San Diego helping women with messy lives. You know, they were uh, codependent, they were bilingual, what do you call it? They had issues. They were drug addicted, sex addicted, you know, alcoholics, whatever, right? And then she talked a little bit about her background, how promiscuous she was, and she had a pretty face. I liked her face. And my girlfriend goes, "You know, I bet you'd want to be with her." I'm like, "What? She just wants love." And I didn't think anything about that show again
She was
until
when you,
that was like 2010, right? And then I'm here in the Rio Grande Valley. It's 2015. I got a business partner that was a sloth, and you know, he'd lay up until like 11 o'clock every day, an ex-FBI agent, an attorney, and a big guy, real big guy. And I had a 4x4 behind the barracks, or behind the hotel, and I'd be kneeling on that praying every day for God to change my life. And I was imagining the kind of woman that I wanted to have in my life. You know, Christian, didn't drink, didn't smoke, didn't do drugs, loved the Lord, right? And I would picture that woman's face from that show, right? Well, my business partner and I split, and he dropped me off at an apartment in McAllen. I didn't have a car, nothing. And I was in the LED lighting business. I was gonna do seminar marketing for LED lights, and I found a Toastmasters meeting. And I took the bus, got there, and this lady comes up. She's really friendly. I'm like, oh, she's really friendly. And but I saw her with everybody hugging on everyone. Oh, she's like that with everybody. So we went to lunch, and she gave me a ride home. And she started telling me how she did bookkeeping and property managers and realtors and commercial realtors. I'm like, oh, I need to talk to them about LED lights. I go, I need to get your number. And she goes, I was wondering when you were going to ask. And we were making out in my parking space in front of my apartment. The next night, I took her to dinner. If she took me, I paid for it. And then she spent the night. And then the next day, she's saying, there's this documentary about me. I was with the woman whose face was in my prayers for 8 months.
Wow.
And of course, I was enamored like right away. We got married like less than 2 months later, but 4 months into our marriage, she told me she didn't love me. I was her fourth husband, right? And then I had got cleaned up myself. You know, I'd started working in the produce warehouses and making some money, and I got my driver's license back. I got my license back, but she had a car, but her license was suspended. And so that's how we drove with her around. But she decided she wanted me out, and so I didn't know what I was going to do or where I was going to go or how I was going to get around. And she took off illegally, and my pastor buddy calls me up and goes, "Dude, I found a vehicle for you. You're going to love it. I'm going to come get you." So he comes and gets me on a Sunday afternoon, takes me to the other pastor's house who had a 2005 Toyota Highlander sitting in his driveway for 8 months with a dead battery. We jump started it. He let me take it that day. He only wanted $500 for it. I paid him that Wednesday.
Wow.
And then I got a grant through the Veterans Peer-to-Peer group and to get my first apartment. And I was like, presto changeo. I was in a better space than I was when I was with my second wife.
There you go.
And so I started working out and I started changing my diet. She got me change my diet. Okay. She would.
The powerful woman.
She would for lunch every day. She would have a bowl of like 4 inches of celery off a stalk of celery, a carrot, peel it up, quarter it up, tomato, quarter, and celery, carrots, and cucumbers, right? And with Italian dressing on. That was it. And that's still almost what I don't eat the tomatoes anymore because they cause inflammation, they cause me joint pain. I'm tired of that. So I have an avocado. I take an avocado and I have that instead, right?
Yeah.
But that's my lunch to this day. And then there's a famous Reuben's Grocery. Of course, I went in there just because the name of the store is Reuben, right? Well, they got world famous superfoods, right? And I've been using their stuff, and I started noticing my confidence was coming up. And then I got a friend of mine. She's a computational biologist. She actually wrote a paper on the human genome, and she was like, "Oh yeah, there's a direct correlation between diet, nutrition, and mental health."
Oh yeah, we've got just about a minute left, and I tell you, Tamra, starting out he was big bad boxer and Navy SEAL, and then you found out he was just a romantic teddy bear. And
Exactly.
and we've really enjoyed having you as a guest here today, Reuben. It's really been great. And Tamra, I just really thank you and appreciate you for being here with us today. And
Thank you.
and I've always appreciated your wisdom and your insight. And you have the ability to ask the questions that I wish I was smart enough to ask. And ladies and gentlemen, we're out of time today. We want to thank Reuben for being with us today, and also Tamra. I'm Jim Grant. We'll be back tomorrow, and our guest will be Angel Marie Monticelli, because she's doing some great things with E360 TV. You don't night.